Hey, how you doing? Dr. Rick Mabanta here again. As I mentioned before, in practice, there are 5 components of health that you should always pay attention to. Structure and alignment, which affects the integrity of the nervous system. The movement that you do, the exercise, and we're going to go over a little exercise today. And of course, there's proper rest, emotional and mental activity, and your nutrition. So right now we want to look at some of the detail involved in movement. And I like to look to movement systems that have been around for a long time, where they've established some of the intricacies of movement which benefit many aspects of physiology. It affects the body movement, affects the nervous system, affects circulation, affects structural alignment and integrity, and it also affects the emotional component by affecting the physiology, quieting the thought process through engaging and incorporating the parasympathetic nervous system. So the most fundamental movement you see in the practice of Qigong is what they refer to as waking up the spine. It's the initial training of how to move the qi in the body, and the way that you do that is to understand where you want to gather qi for most of the motion. So the primary area where you're gathering the qi, or the body's energy, is in the lower Dantian. This is where it's stored for movement and for utilization. So when you're moving and you're introducing a motion, you want to carry the qi from the floor, from a stable stance, through the lower Dantian into the extremities. Now, in order to learn how to keep the qi in the lower Dantian, we do the opposite first to understand empty and full. So emptying the lower Dantian is to pull in the abdomen and expanding and opening the chest. While you're doing that, you're initiating all the motion through the pelvis first. So if you look from the side view, you see a even pelvis, a slight tilt in the tailbone, and then when you're emptying the abdomen, emptying the lower Dantian, filling the upper Dantian, the chest, tilting the pelvis, initiating the motion, expanding through the chest, lifting the pelvic floor, and elongating up through the spine. So what this is doing is it's changing the 3 primary spinal curves. You are flattening the lumbar curve, flattening the thoracic curve, and flattening the cervical curve. When you do that, you create a tractioning effect, or a stretching effect throughout this whole spine. Simultaneously, you're engaging and toning the internal organs through the lifting of the pelvis, lifting of the pelvic floor, and the expansion of the diaphragm. So what that motion looks like is this. You relax, bringing the qi, or energy, or filling the lower Dantian, and then you're emptying the lower Dantian, flattening the floor, opening the chest. Thinking about elongating up through the head, extending down through the floor, and keeping the other directions in mind as well. So that basic movement is what's utilized through many of the forms in Qigong. So a basic primary movement would be using the hands to do that same motion. Filling the lower Dantian, bringing the hands up, expanding into the chest, emptying the lower Dantian, and then slowly filling the lower Dantian, also feeling expansion throughout the entire body. So basic movement of Qigong. There's a lot going on there. Engaging the lower Dantian is incorporating and stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system by bringing your intention to the lower viscera, the organs, which are more parasympathetic, initiated or stimulated. And the parasympathetic, as I referred to in previous videos, is one part of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has 2 basic modes: sympathetic, parasympathetic. Sympathetic is fight or flight. Parasympathetic is heal, feed and breed, it's referred to as sometimes. It handles the other aspects other than fighting and running away, like digestion, immune function, cellular replication. Everything other than physical protection is engaged when your parasympathetic nervous system is engaged. This motion, through directing a isolated thought into the body, you're giving a physical command, and you're initiating motion of areas of the body that are usually voluntary or non-mobile through conscious thought. So you're taking involuntary movement, say the viscera, the organs, the intestines, moving them through voluntary thought patterns, and you're engaging the movement of blood, lymph, qi, as it's referred to in the Chinese system, and allowing that qi to move throughout the body unrestricted or unblocked. So basic movement. We'll go into some other patterns later on and some other forms later on, but that's the primary movement that you see in Qigong. So play with that a little bit, experiment with that emptying and filling of the lower Dantian, and let me know how you make out. I'll talk to you later.